Hello everyone and welcome back to the 3T Path channel. Welcome back to our Uddhava-gita course. And my name is Giridhari Das. And we're in a beautiful chapter of the Uddhava-gita where Krishna is describing the all-important topic of the gunas. It's such an important topic. Once you grasp the concept of the gunas, it really clears your path for a wonderful life and of course the necessary step for really achieving higher states of consciousness, advancing in the spiritual path of yoga described by Krishna. So it's a very important comment section of the Uddhava-gita. And now Krishna is going to describe first a really interesting concept which is repeated in different parts of the scriptures of how we're trying to overcome the gunas, but we are within the gunas, and how we can use the gunas to overcome the gunas. Very important topic. And then we're going to have a very interesting / funny question, but also serious, from Uddhava about why we act like dogs, asses, and goats. And of course, if you want to watch all the previous classes of the Uddhava-gita course, make sure to go to Uddhava-gita.com, or just check the description of the video here, become a member of this Bhakti Club, and then you can watch all the classes too, okay? So, here we go. We are in the 11th Canto, chapter 13, verse 7. Krishna says, "In a bamboo forest, the wind sometimes rubs the bamboo stalks together, and such friction generates a blazing fire that consumes the very source of its birth, the bamboo forest. Thus, the fire is automatically calmed by its own action. Similarly, by the competition and interaction of the material modes of nature, the friction, the subtle and gross material bodies are generated. If one uses his mind and body to cultivate knowledge, then such enlightenment destroys the influence of the modes of nature that generated one's body. Thus, like the fire, the body and mind are pacified by their own actions in destroying the source of their birth." Did you get that? It's a great concept and a nice metaphor with the bamboo forest. So, not sure if this is true or not. Maybe it is. I don't know. You'd have to ask some, forest scientists. But anyway, we hear this comes up in different parts of the Vedas. This idea that in a bamboo forest, the wind will cause friction between the bamboos. It will spark a flame, and then that flame will, of course, consume the very forest from which it came from. So the fire pacifies itself. So the bamboo forest created the fire, and the fire destroys the bamboo forest. Now, Krishna says, just like that, the gunas, this matter, and remember, gunas just means material energy, just everything that composes material existence, everything in the universe that's material. So that, the motion of those gunas, in your previous lives, etc., they create your body. Not just your outside, we call this the gross material bodies. It's the body that's studied by medicine in hospitals, and also your subtle body, composed of mind, intelligence, and false ego. So those are created by the gunas. But then if you use those with knowledge, and the key point here is cultivate knowledge, like you're doing now by doing this course. If you cultivate knowledge, then that enlightenment you're going to create is like the fire. So this is it's a fire that's going to destroy matter. So you can cultivate this transcendental knowledge, and this will then destroy the very source of the bodies. And then you can become enlightened and, of course, attain kaivalya, go beyond the gunas. As you remember, like in the Yoga Sutras, kaivalya, the point of liberation, moksha. It's described as kaivalya, and it's described as the moment where the soul parts company with the gunas. So this ceasing of contact with the gunas is liberation. The same concept is here. Okay, so it's a very nice idea of the bamboo forest, the metaphor. You can try to remember that you can use this material life to become enlightened. Purport. The word guna vyatyaya ja is significant in this verse. Vyatyaya indicates change or inversion in the normal order of things. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, who is a spiritual master in our lineage from the early 20th century, has described the concept of vyatyaya by giving the Sanskrit synonym vaishamya, which indicates inequality or disproportionate diversity. Thus, it is understood by the term guna vyatyaya ja that the body is generated by the unstable relationship of the three modes of material nature, which exist everywhere in constantly changing proportions. There is constant strife among the modes of nature. So this is a common topic when we're talking about the gunas. Is this the mix of the modes, sattva, rajas, and tamas? How much of each? What's going on? The influence. It's always in flux. There is constant strife among the modes of nature. A good person is sometimes torn by passion, and a passionate person sometimes wants to give up everything and rest. An ignorant person may sometimes become disgusted with his depraved life, and a passionate person may sometimes indulge in bad habits in the mode of ignorance. Due to the interactive conflict of the modes of nature, one wanders throughout material nature, creating one body after another. This is a very important concept. As you cultivate different mixes of the three modes, you create and generate your transmigrational path is being determined by the mix of the gunas you are cultivating in each life. And of course, in some lives it's kind of automatic, like below human life, the animals, if you cultivated lots of tamas, then you automatically get a lower than human life, and then you don't have any choice. You just you go on to some automatic mode, and then you just gradually go back to the human form of life. But in this human form of life, very, very, very important to cultivate the right mix of the gunas, because this is where you're going to decide which way you go. And of course, if you're really paying attention, you don't want to go in any direction in the gunas. You want to just stay in sattva so you can cultivate dharma, so you can cultivate bhakti, which was the theme of the end of the last chapter, you remember. So Krishna's saying the importance of cultivating sattva because it generates dharma, and dharma generates jnana, and then when you have sattva, dharma, and jnana, then you're just flying right up your consciousness. You're on your way out of material existence, out of the samsara. So that's what you want, of course, but you have to be careful because your gunas, if you don't do that, then you don't know where you're going to end up. Where's it going to take you? Because that's the power of the gunas. You have to be on top of it. Due to the interactive conflict of the modes, one wanders through material, creating one body after another by one's own work, one's own karma. As it is said, variety is the mother of enjoyment, and the variety of material modes gives hope to the conditioned soul that by changing their material situation, their unhappiness and frustration can be turned into happiness and satisfaction. But even if one acquires relative material happiness, that will soon be disturbed by the inevitable flux of the material modes. So this is another very important warning point that comes from studying the gunas. That of course, because there's always a flux, people are always, cultivating the hope that things will get better, right? Because you're in a certain situation and your mentality, your mind is in a certain place. Let's say a little rajasic, so you're full of anxiety. Let's say a little tamasic, so you're a bit depressed and feeling hopeless. And then you're thinking, oh, but there's this other place I can be in, and that would be sattva, where you'd be feeling contentment and health and joy and satisfaction. But even when you're there, maybe you're there now, maybe you're in the sattva thing, maybe you're feeling contentment, joy and satisfaction, but you can't rest on your laurels because, they're in a flux. And before you know it, it's going to be anxiety, it's going to be depression, it's going to be anger. It's just like you can't stay in a good place in the material existence, because the material modes are always in flux. It's a very important point that we get from the guna theory of yoga. Okay, now verse 8. Here we go, the question. Sri Uddhava said, "My dear Krishna, generally human beings know that material life brings great future unhappiness, and still they try to enjoy material life. My dear Lord, how can one in knowledge act just like a dog, an ass, or a goat?" It's great, isn't it? This is a great question. How can one act just like a dog, an ass, or a goat? Okay. So first of all, Uddhava starts it's just a normal state of incredulity, really. I mean, once you have just the slightest, access to knowledge, once you just have the slightest enlightenment, you've peeked through the door of enlightenment, and you're like, oh yes, you got a little glimpse of God and your eternal soul, and then you're like, whoa, what am I doing here in this material world? What is going on? And then you can look around and you really you get perplexed. You're like, doesn't everybody see that they're suffering all the time? I mean, once you see it, you can't unsee it. And you just become flabbergasted that why isn't everybody seeing it? I mean, it's so obvious, right? How more obvious can it be that material life is full of suffering and a danger at every step, as the scriptures tell us? How can we not notice that it's such a miserable place? Because, but then if I'm rich, what are you talking about? They suffer just the same. They die and they get horrible diseases and they get betrayed and, they get crazy and they get addicted. I mean, they have the same problems. They have to go to therapy as well. They take drugs and alcohol and they get arrested and they get murdered. I mean, there's no joy anywhere. It's so much trouble. How can you not see it? It's like once you've seen it, you're like, why isn't everybody seeing it? So it's always a common issue with all spiritualists. Even just from the very beginning, you're like, why aren't other people seeing this? It's so obvious. So Uddhava's the same thing. It's like, can't they see? It's this great future unhappiness. That's what awaits everyone, great future unhappiness. And still they try to enjoy material life. How can you enjoy something? It doesn't work. Obviously, it's going to fail you. So then, how can we act just like a dog, an ass, or a goat? Great question. We'll get to the answer. Purport. The standard methods of enjoyment in the material world are sex, money, and false prestige, all of which are obtained with great suffering and eventually lost. One engaged in material life suffers in the present and has only a very bleak future to look forward to in the continuing cycle of birth and death. Thus, how can human beings who have seen these things and know them very well continue to enjoy life like dogs, asses, and goats? Often, a dog will approach a bitch for sex, but the lady dog may not be attracted and will show her teeth, snarl, and threaten the poor dog with serious injury. Still, he goes about his business trying to get a little sex pleasure. Similarly, many times a dog risks being beaten or shot while stealing some food in a place where he knows he should not go. The ass is very attracted to the she-ass, but the lady ass often kicks him in the legs. Similarly, the ass's master gives the ass a handful of grass, which the poor ass could get anywhere, and thus burdens him with great loads. The goat is generally raised for slaughter, and even when the goat is brought into the slaughterhouse, he shamelessly goes after the lady goat to get sex pleasure. In this way, even at the risk of being shot, bitten, beaten, and slaughtered, animals persist in their foolish sense gratification. How can an educated human being commit himself to such a condemned way of life, wherein the result is practically the same as that of the animals? If by cultivating the mode of goodness one's life is filled with happiness, enlightenment, and future rewards, why would anyone cultivate the modes of passion and ignorance? This is Uddhava's questions. It's a very good question. You just have to look around. It's just like these things. It's like it always gives you trouble. You know, cheating gives you trouble. You know, trying to, just working your like an ass, to accumulate stuff. It's not a way to go. It's not a happy life to have. It's like, why do we keep doing these things? Why do people insisting on these things when they don't work and they give so much trouble? It really is shocking. But, at least maybe you can not do it. So that's at least what we have to do, and maybe convince a few other people not to do it. That's the best we can get around to in this world. Okay. Verses 9 and 10. So Krishna is going to answer now, start his answer. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, "My dear Uddhava, a person bereft of intelligence first falsely identifies himself with the material body and mind." That's where all the trouble starts. And when such false knowledge arises within one's consciousness, material passion, the cause of great suffering, pervades the mind, which by nature is situated in goodness. So Krishna says the mind would normally be in sattva. But when you identify yourself with body and mind, then what you get is rajas, which is the source of great suffering, anxiety, and innumerable desires. So that's where it starts, and that's where knowledge comes in. Because without knowledge, you naturally identify with body and mind. That's the default state of any creature born in the material world. You'll identify with body and mind. Oh, this is what I am. This is me. This is me. So, yeah, I'm this. It takes jnana, knowledge has to come in to tell you, no. Actually, you can see that you're not, you can perceive that you're not your mind and body. It takes knowledge. We have to have this help from this descending knowledge, revealed knowledge coming down. Krishna brought it down 5,000 years ago. Other avatars of Krishna brought it down. We need this knowledge, and it's spread around by devotees, yogis. We need this knowledge, revealed scripture, as it were, to tell you, no. You're actually a transcendental being, the real you, the one who's seeing, touching, feeling, the real one that's experiencing these things, that is choosing, thinking. That is not material. You can see that matter doesn't think, feel, and choose. That's not a quality of matter. Matter can't do that. Matter can't feel, choose, decide. No. That is the quality of the soul, transcendental person, the Purusha, the Atman, depending on different terms. In the Vedanta, Atman, and the Yoga is Purusha. That is the quality of Purusha, of the Atman. And then that is covered by this material mind and body. So you're within a machine, because we make machines out of matter, right? And they do stuff, right? The car drives, and machines do this and the other thing, and computers do all sorts of things, and so they open and close and fly and whatever. So machines do things. So this is a machine. But the feeling, thinking, choosing, no, that's something that pertains to the Purusha. A Purusha can program a machine to do things, to detect things, but the machine will never think, feel, and choose. That is the nature of the Purusha. So once you understand that you receive that jnana, then you're on the path to attaining a sattvic mind, to becoming enlightened, to becoming free of the samsara. But if you don't get that, then you identify with body and soul. This is the opposite. This is what we're running away from with Bhagavad-gita, Uddhava-gita. This is what we're getting away from, is that identification with the body. This is where yoga starts. That's why the first thing Krishna teaches in Bhagavad-gita to Arjuna, the first 20 verses are all about you're not your body. Just Krishna says it over and over again in different ways with different explanations, but basically he's saying the same thing for 20 verses. You are not your body. He says it over, he just gives examples, he just explains it from this angle, that angle, and this. That's the first thing. Once you get that, wow, then the door opens. Then enlightenment, spirituality, the kingdom of God, everything becomes accessible once you realize that. Okay, now, then the mind, Krishna continues, contaminated by rajas, becomes absorbed in making and changing many plans for material advancement. Does this sound at all familiar to you? Does this ring a bell? Did you not do that your entire life? I'll read it again. When the mind is contaminated by passion, it becomes absorbed in making and changing. I like that, making and changing. Making and changing many plans for material advancement. Thus, by constantly thinking of the modes of material nature, a foolish person is afflicted with unbearable material desires. Oh, this is so, Krishna just is laying it down, right? Look at that. A foolish person is afflicted with unbearable material desires. That is our lives wrapped up succinctly by Krishna. This is what we do. This is our lives, right? We're afflicted with unbearable material desires. Purport. Those who are trying to enjoy material sense gratification are not actually intelligent, although they consider themselves most intelligent. Although such foolish persons themselves criticize the miseries of material life in innumerable books, songs, newspapers, television programs, civic committees, etc., they cannot desist from material life for a single moment. The process by which one is helplessly bound in illusion is clearly described here. A materialistic person is always thinking, oh, what a beautiful house. I wish we could buy it. Or, what a beautiful woman. I wish I could touch her. Or, what a powerful position. I wish I could occupy it. And so on. The words sankalpa sa vikalpaha indicate that a materialist is always making new plans or modifying his old plans to increase his material enjoyment. Although in his saner moments he admits that material life is full of suffering. The mind is created from the mode of goodness as described in Sankhya philosophy. So in Sankhya philosophy, one thing comes from another thing, comes from another thing, it starts like that. And the mind is created from sattva in that structure. And the natural, peaceful situation of the mind is pure love of Krishna, in which there is no mental disturbance, disappointment, or confusion. Artificially, the mind is dragged down to a lower platform in passion or ignorance, rajas or tamas, and thus one is never satisfied. Very good. Verse 11, Krishna continues. One who does not control the material senses, key point here, does not control the material senses, comes under the control of material desires, and is thus bewildered by the strong waves of rajas. Such a person executes material activities, although clearly seeing that the result will be future unhappiness. So this is what Krishna is explaining. Uddhava asked, don't people can see they're going to have future unhappiness, but still they go on. What's going on? And Krishna says now, what happens is that they don't control their senses. There's two paths here. Krishna is saying, look, there are two doors. Door number one, you control your senses. You assume command of your life. Door number two, you come under the control of your material desires. Which one are you going to choose? If you choose door number two and you come under the control of material desires, you will be bewildered by the strong waves of rajas. And thus you will execute activities, even clearly seeing that the result is future unhappiness. And this is the situation of the world today. People can see that they're going to get old and die, or if they do some illegal activity, they're going to be arrested or fined, but they can't control themselves. They can see that if they cheat, their wives, it's going to destroy their lives and their relationship with their children, but they can't stop it. They see these things, but they just can't control themselves. So they lie, cheat, and steal, commit crimes. We can see that we're destroying the planet, and all this suffering is coming, and with, heat and fires and extreme cold, but we can't stop it because of the desires. People can't stop. They can't, door number one, control their senses. So that's what we need. We need to control our senses. This is the why sense control is another key pillar of the path of yoga. Anyway, so we'll stop here. Wonderful verses. I hope you've enjoyed it too, and have the rest of your day with lots of peace and lots of love. Hare Krishna.